Welcome to Be a Neuro Ninja, Wellbeing for Busy People. And in this introductory video, we're going to explore how to get the most out of this course. Welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name's Andrew and I work at a company called Action Your Potential. So you want to learn about your amazing brain. You want to learn how to get the most out of every single day. You want to build skills of well-being to change your life. Welcome to a whole new world. You can change your mind and change your world. But new year, new you. But the process of that new year, new you is difficult. Why is change so hard? Let's explore that and look at how that you can get the most out of this course. When we're building New Year's resolutions, when we're responding to life's difficulties and setbacks, we apply hindsight. We try to learn from our mistakes. But in the process, we often suffer enormously. We often beat ourselves up. We often get stuck feeling bad about the errors we made. And we make resolutions as a result to change and grow and develop. Think about how you would support a friend to embark on a change journey. You wouldn't do it in the way that you might talk to yourself in that process. So hindsight is important, but another force is even more important, and that force is kindsight. We're going to urge you throughout this series of videos, across this video course, to apply kindsight, to stop beating yourself up about things that happened in the past. Instead of slapping your forehead and asking, what was I thinking? Breathe and ask a kinder question. What was I learning? Why is that important? Because when we're stuck, when we're experiencing a setback, when we're having difficulties, we often end up ruminating. We often end up stuck in this part of the prefrontal cortex, the ventral medial prefrontal cortex, connected to the older subcortical areas in the middle of the brain. Strong emotions, emotional reasoning, cognitive distortions, catastrophizing, very difficult and challenging thinking that could be summed up in the word rumination. When we experience a setback, there are, let's be honest, the seeds of change. We can get stuck in that toxic cycle of just beating ourselves up, remembering what happened and upsetting ourselves. We need to apply kindsight because it changes where we are in our heads. It moves the density of neural firing from that bit at the bottom of that prefrontal cortex to the area at the tops and the sides. So we're going to urge you to apply kindsight. So is it possible to change yourself in a kinder, more responsive way with less suffering? Yes, absolutely. Once you understand your incredible brain, you can change yourself in a much kinder, much more systematic way. We can absolutely change our brains. Our brains are neurally plastic throughout our lives. Whatever we use our brains for, they get better at doing those things. So if we practice a foreign language, we get better at that skill. If we practice the drums, we get better at that skill. But our brain works on this basis. Whatever we use it for, those connections get strengthened. So if we're learning to do free shots in basketball, we improve those connections. If we spend a lot of time in an anxious space because of what's going on around us at the time, we can strengthen those connections as well. We need to learn to manage our neural architecture, to mind manage our response to the world. And during the course of these videos, as we look at well-being, we'll explore that important aspect of managing our minds. So, why is change so hard for us? We've got a body and a brain that generates a mind. We can think things really quickly in the flexible neural workspace provided by our brains. We can think, this year I'm going to be more productive and manage paperwork better and keep a tidy desk. This year I'm going to go to the gym 3 times a week. This year I'm going to go to bed early, much earlier. I'm going to put the phone on charge in the kitchen and I'm not going to stare at it late into the night. And then after a month of busyness and effort, we can turn around and realise that our desk is still as messy as it ever was, despite that big tidy up we did over Christmas. We went to the gym once and haven't been again, and the phone is still clamped to our hand at night. We're still staying up way too late. We're still not getting enough sleep. Change is difficult. Why is change so hard? Because we misunderstand what we are. We think we're a mind bossing around a brain and a body. but we're actually a brain and a body that generates a mind. And that subtle difference is incredibly important to understand. We can help you to change. You can change your brain. You need to do it step by step, and we're going to explore how you do that during the course of these videos. But before we do that, we need to ask you a question. What kind of horse are you? A strange question. Actually, what is your attitude to change? And we're going to use this famous saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink, to explore that idea. So as these horses appear on the screen, have a think about yourself in terms of attitude to change. Are you horse A? A horse that is interested in change and development? A horse that is looking for change and development? Where is the water? A positive attitude towards change and development. Are you horse B? An attitude to change and development which is, well, yeah, fine, but actually I need this help and I need that help and I need you to come over here and support me, and I can't possibly do it if you're doing that. If you want me to drink, bring it to me with a straw. That is more difficult in terms of the journey to change. We can still help you, but it's really important to be aware that it might take a bit longer if you've got that kind of attitude to change. Are you horse C? In denial. Everyone else needs to change. Actually, I don't need that water. I don't need that change. I think it's highly unlikely because you've clicked on this course. Or are you horse D? The easiest approach and attitude to change. Change is good. Change is important. In fact, we're all on a shared journey of change inside the human brain. So we need to be clear where our attitude is on the journey to change. And let's be honest, our attitude can shift about during the course of a day and a week. We need to be constantly in a process where we're looking after ourselves, deploying well-being, and on the way to actively engaging and finding change. And when we find the opportunity for change and development, when we focus on the particular habit, we need to be ready and determined to deal with the setbacks that will come as we try to change our brains. The first step on that journey is getting out of our own way. We can get in our own way in lots of different ways. We can self-sabotage. We can blame other people. We can get stuck in rumination and negative thinking about ourselves. We can not allow ourselves enough time. We can try and do too much at once. We need to make sure we've got the beliefs in the right place. Beliefs derive behaviours. Beliefs and behaviours fall into two categories. We've got growth-affirming beliefs that move us forward, and we've got growth-defeating beliefs and behaviours that hold us back. What growth-defeating behaviours do you have? Do you have a very negative view of yourself? Think about that conversation we had earlier about changing a friend. You're going to change a friend supportively through kind, supportive comments, not through nagging and shoutiness. Think about, do you have a growth-defeating belief and behaviour around certain categories of activity you believe you can't get any better at? Do you think everyone else is better than you? That it's not worth the personal effort of growth? It's too hard. It takes too long. It's not fair. I've tried so many times and it's never worked. I'm not the kind of person who can change my life. Unlikely, because you clicked on this video, but someone you know might be in that space. We can support them to begin to turn those growth-defeating beliefs and behaviours into growth-affirming ones. This is a shared journey. Every single one of us is equal in the face of our response to our neurally plastic brain. We have a responsibility to change ourselves. So how should I treat myself as I embark on the change journey? With kindness, remember kindsight, with curiosity, with self-awareness, maintaining high standards but have a flexible approach to achieving them. We need to be curious, humble, open-minded, full of self-compassion and a good sense of humour. That opens up our thinking, activates circuits at the tops and sides of our prefrontal cortex where the broadest bandwidth is available in the human brain. You do have everything you need at the top of your neck, and a human brain with its needs met each day and the right daily behaviours is unstoppable. So as we embark on this journey of change, we need to calibrate our expectations before we start. We need to be aware that change is incremental, it's step by step. We need to be involved in change. We need to be prepared to go slowly and steadily, to monitor, evaluate, reflect, and be aware of where we got to and what the next step is. And we need to set the habits up carefully in a planned way, and we'll support you in doing that. Not too many at once. We often try to do too much too quickly, and we need to monitor implementation. What we're going to be trying to do is build new connections and then strengthen those connections. That means that there's already pre-existing connections in our brains. That's why change is so hard, because we're trying to adapt a network. The network will adapt, but the first time we build a habit, the first act of doing the habit, the connection that's built will necessarily be weaker than the other connections around it. As we're building that habit, it's through repetition, practice each day, little and often learning, that we will fire those neurons again and strengthen that connection. So we need to expect setbacks, because other stronger connections will win out sometimes. We need to expect resistance and expect to fail initially. Think of a toddler learning to walk or a toddler learning to talk. They fall over a lot when they're learning to walk. The brain is building connections. They babble a lot, making literally no sense when they're learning to talk. The brain is building connections. We need to be determined and realistic and have smart goals. We need to have near goals. These are the things we're doing today to change our brain. We need to be aware of how they connect with what we're doing next week and next month to change our brain. And we need to have an idea of what we'd like it to look like in a year's time. We need to be flexible and supportive on the journey. If we're willing to change and learn, no one can stop us. If we're not willing to change and learn, no one can help us. We believe that you can do it. Do you? And on that journey, we're going to teach you about nets and threads and daily life experiments. And you'll understand how they work in another video shortly. But a net is a group of behaviours that will move us in a positive direction. A thread is a single behaviour that will help us on that journey. And a daily life experiment is what we should all be engaged in every day to change our incredible brains. And this is the overview of the course. There are 13 different episodes beyond this one, and we're going to be spending time looking at the well-being crisis we're experiencing as a species. We're looking at burnout and frazzlement, how daily behaviours are incredibly important to support our brain in building the best version of itself. We're going to be looking at what those behaviours are and how they support our brain. We're going to be looking at the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system and how daily behaviours support that. And we'll be finishing by beginning to explore some of those well-being habits in a bit more detail. Thanks for joining us, and let's dive in. Are you ready to change?